Video games as a medium are much more difficult to preserve than other types of media, simply because video games are software, and software requires special computer hardware to run, and probably a specific hardware, a specific version, and even worse, if it's a digital release where you don't actually have a physical copy of the game, access to the game can go away as services and platforms come and go. My JellyCar games are a perfect example of that. Currently, today, JellyCar 1, 2, and 3 are basically unavailable. Being digital-only releases, and the platforms and the storefronts where they were previously available have changed or have gone away in such a way that these games just simply cannot be found anymore. Of course, that's one of the reasons I'm so excited that I have JellyCar Worlds, my new modern ultimate JellyCar game that I got a chance to make and release on multiple platforms so that the gameplay is available now much more widely than it ever has been before. But what about the old games? People often ask me, can't you just re-release the old games? Can you put them back up on the stores? Can you do something about that? And it's simply not that easy. And basically the situation I'm in right now is I can focus on and support JellyCar Worlds, but I can't do much with the old games in terms of re-releasing them. However, I did realize there is something I could do. And it's something I haven't really seen before. It's not a port. It's not a remake. It's something else. Hi, I'm Wallaber, and this is my devlog number 12, I think it is, for JellyCar Worlds, a project that I started these devlogs while I was in development. The game's been out now for quite some time and it's had several major updates. And today I'm going to talk about the next big round of updates, one of which is already live, which adds classic JellyCar levels into JellyCar Worlds. And this is what I'm talking about. It's not really a port. It's not exactly a remake. It's something different. So if you check out the latest version of JellyCar Worlds, you'll see that there's a new section in the game called Classic Levels. When you go in there, there's selections for JellyCars 1, 2, and 3. Currently, JellyCar 1 is available, and all the levels from JellyCar 1 have been brought into JellyCar Worlds. In the future updates, I'll be adding JellyCar 2 and JellyCar 3 in the same way. It's been an interesting thing to add these old levels into JellyCar Worlds. Of course, the way I make the levels, the file formats have changed, and so it's not as simple as just opening the old content. So one of the first things I had to do was write an import script in my JellyCar Worlds project, which could read the old level formats and translate them into the new level formats. And that involves quite a few things like changing the scale of things and adjusting of the various parameters of the objects so they would behave approximately like they did in the original games. I got that working, and then I tried driving around in the levels, and of course a few things were evident right away. Number one is that the game mechanics in JellyCar Worlds do not match those from JellyCar 1. In JellyCar 1, growing and shrinking your car was a native ability. At any point, you could just press a button and grow your car, and actually a little meter would deplete, and then if you shrunk back down, that meter would refill. I changed that design in JellyCar Worlds to make the grow power-up work just like all the other power-ups in the game, where you actually have to collect them in the level, and then you have a limited use, and if you want to grow again, you have to find another power-up. So I set up some new code where in a level now I can set it up so that there is an ability that is automatically granted to the player and will regenerate over time. You don't have to collect it anymore. This was my solution, was to add in a mechanic that behaved like the previous games. I suppose I could have gone in and added grow power-ups into the levels and achieved something similar, but I really didn't want to touch the levels. That's kind of been my guiding principle as I've brought in these classic levels, is I don't want to change the levels. The only thing I'll change is if the physics aren't working properly and I need to adjust parameters or something like that, but I don't want to add or remove things from the levels if at all possible. So I added in the minimum mechanics so that you could actually play the levels in a similar way to the way they were in the games. But it is just a similar way, it's not exact. And that's because the physics and the way the car behaves are from JellyCar Worlds. Actually fully recreating the behavior of the physics and the car tuning and everything from the previous games was outside of the scope of what I felt was going to be reasonable for these updates. And so the end result is pretty interesting. I think it's a little bit like this. You maybe remember a playground that you went and played when you were a kid. And when you were a kid, it had a certain feel. And then you grow up and you become just physically bigger or more capable, and you go back to that same playground. And it's the same environment, but the experience of playing in that environment is quite different. And that's basically what it feels like to play these classic levels in JellyCar Worlds. The car is so much more nimble and capable than it was in the previous games that the levels take on a new feel. This is what this looks like in practice. This level you can literally jump up at the beginning, which shouldn't be possible, drive across the top almost like Super Mario Brothers going to the warp zone. And this is from a very talented player on my Discord, of course, so they're very skilled with the car, but look at the stuff you can do here, like this wall jump sequence here. I didn't even know this was possible in JellyCar Worlds, but it certainly wasn't possible in the previous games. And just like that, this player has skipped the entire level. Of course, you could have different opinions about this. Maybe this is a bad thing because you can sort of skip these levels or do things that shouldn't have been possible in them, and maybe that's ruining the spirit of the level design. But personally, I think it's kind of interesting and fun and a new idea. It's sort of like, what if Nintendo in Super Mario Odyssey had a world you could go to which was Mario 64 levels as is, that you could run around in with the Mario Odyssey moveset? I agree that wouldn't be the same thing as re-releasing Mario 64, but it would be a really interesting way to experience that classic and nostalgic content. This also tied into the challenge system that I have in JellyCar World. So I have a time to beat, a dev ghost where you try to race the level and complete it faster than me. And finally, some levels I put in unique challenges tailored to the level. Oh, skip this half of the level, or use only a certain power-up, or play the level with overinflated tires, which is one of my favorites now, and I'm using it probably more than I should because it's so silly to see the car with these ridiculously inflated tires. Anyway, this kind of worked out nicely because adding a challenge, again, fundamentally means you don't touch the level, you just add a new logic on top that says, can you play this level this way or that way? And I think that kind of ties together the approach of bringing in the classic levels, leaving them untouched, but leaving the physics and your abilities as they are in JellyCar Worlds. And the challenges sort of play with that, where they let you do things and play with the levels and look at them in a new way. Anyway, I'm pretty excited about this. This is the best I can do to sort of preserve the content from JellyCar 1, 2, and 3 eventually, and import them into JellyCar Worlds. The game benefits because it has more content, and people that want to remember and enjoy the classic content at least have a way to do it now inside JellyCar Worlds. Let me know what you think. Is this an interesting approach to sort of preserving in a pragmatic and practical way, or is this an abomination and I've disgraced the classic levels and classic content from the previous games? I'd love to know in the comments. Let me know what you think. I'll be back in the future as we add more levels and more content into JellyCar Worlds. Bye!